All right, today we're going to dive into the psychology of a generation that's so often overlooked, but is absolutely pivotal to understanding where we are today. Yep, we're talking about Generation X. I mean, think about it. It's kind of true, right? We talk endlessly about boomers, millennials, Gen Z. We analyze everything, their spending habits, their politics, their memes, the whole nine yards. But what about that generation kind of sandwiched right in the middle? The one that was born between 1965 and 1980. They're often the quiet ones, the ones who just get the job done. And because of that, their entire psychology is probably one of the most misunderstood of any generation alive today. So, let's get into it. Why do they so often feel invisible? Well, it all starts with their childhood, which was, honestly, a masterclass in learning how to fend for yourself. And this right here is the absolute core of the Gen X experience. I want you to just picture this for a second. You're maybe 8 years old, you walk home from school, key around your neck, and you let yourself into a totally empty house. No parents, no one watching over you. This wasn't some rare thing. For millions of kids, this was just Tuesday. Yeah, look at that number. By 1984, we're talking about 7 million kids as young as 5, who are regularly on their own after school. When that's your reality, it burns the lesson deep into your brain. You just can't always count on someone else being there for you. So this early independence, it wasn't just about learning to make your own after-school snack. It was a crash course in cause and effect. It taught them all about actions and their immediate, unfiltered consequences. Okay, so this is a really key psychological concept for understanding Gen X. It's called a high-contingency environment. Basically, in that empty house, if you messed up, if you broke a rule, there was no one to plead your case with. The consequences were direct and they were swift. That kind of environment literally trains your brain to constantly think 3 steps ahead, to play out every scenario, to anticipate the outcome of everything you do. And at the same time, this was the promise they were hearing from the world, from their parents' generation. It was the big social contract. Hey, just work hard, play by the rules, and everything's going to be fine. Yeah, but that promise? They watched that social contract get ripped to shreds right in front of their eyes. That stability they were told they'd get, it just never showed up. Just look at the timeline of their lives. In the 70s, they saw divorce rates skyrocket. In the 80s, they watched their parents, who gave decades of loyalty to a company, get laid off without a second thought. Then, they graduated right into the dot-com bust, and they hit their mid-career prime just in time for the 2008 financial crisis. I mean, what's the lesson here? The lesson is crystal clear. At any moment, the rug can and probably will be pulled out from under you. So, what does all that instability do to a person's mindset? How does it shape who they are today? Well, it forges a very, very specific set of survival traits. And look, these aren't just little personality quirks. This is psychological armor. That defensive pessimism, that's not them being negative. That's them being realistic, based on a lifetime of evidence. The ironic detachment, that's a shield, right? A way to laugh at something before it has a chance to hurt you. Radical self-reliance isn't a choice. It's the factory default setting. And that fierce privacy, well, that's just a way to feel safe in a world that's proven to be anything but predictable. And you see this play out so clearly in the workplace. They saw their parents' corporate loyalty get betrayed, so Gen X just never bought into that whole company man idea. Their loyalty, it's not to a brand or a logo. It's to their own skill set, to their own competence. For them, real job security isn't about climbing a ladder. It's about being so damn good at what you do that they can't afford to lose you. Which brings us to this really fascinating paradox when it comes to help. A Gen Xer will almost never ask for help. To them, it feels like admitting failure. But if they see you struggling, they'll be the first person to jump in and help, without you even asking. No drama, no announcement, they just show up and fix it. It's this quiet, deeply ingrained instinct that comes directly from those latchkey kid days. So what does this mean if you're trying to lead a Gen Xer? Simple. You have to earn their respect. They have zero patience for authority that comes from a title alone. And why would they? They grew up watching pretty much every major institution and its leaders fail them, from Watergate on down. So for them, respect isn't given, it's earned. You have to prove you actually know what you're doing. Okay, so when you put all of this together, you realize they're in this incredibly unique and absolutely crucial position in our society right now. They are, in almost every sense, the bridge. Think about this. They are the very last generation to remember life before the internet, the last ones. They had a completely analog childhood, and then, as adults, they were the ones who had to build and adapt to this new digital world.
Because of that, they learned how to solve problems in a way that's, well, almost alien now. It wasn't about a quick Google search. It was about physical effort, literally getting your hands dirty, fixing a bike chain. It was about going to the library and using a card catalog for hours, or just being bored and having to actually sit alone with your own thoughts. That process, it builds a totally different kind of intuition. It builds this deep-seated, unshakable belief that no matter what, you can figure it out.
And really, that's their role now, isn't it? They're the translators, the ones who can speak both analog and digital. They're the managers, the parents, the coworkers who are quietly holding everything together, usually without any fanfare, because honestly, they never learned to expect any recognition in the first place.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. As this generation gets older, as they start to leave the workforce, what happens then? What happens to all that practical knowledge, that radical self-reliance, that quiet competence that just gets things done? What do we lose when that bridge connecting our analog past to our digital future is finally gone?